Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and good evening. Thank you for being here tonight and welcome to our series of More Than Just Money, a series for anything that is Islamic finance related. Let me firstly introduce myself. My name is Nurul Iman binti Najib and I'll be your host for tonight. Islamic Finance at Singapore, or IFSG, is a community of scholars, finance professionals, and students in Islamic finance. What started as a WhatsApp group has now become a society in the making with a long-term goal to serve the Singaporean community through Islamic finance. Tonight, I am honored to share this platform with Ustaz Haron with an interesting topic, insurance, the Singaporean Muslim dilemma. Allow me to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Ustaz Haron Masagos Hassan, presently in Senior Executive Wealth Management and the Internal Sharia Advisor for the Islamic Wealth Advisory FAiWA division within Financial Private Limited. Ustaz Haron has more than 10 years of working experience in the financial markets. In his role, he works closely with FAiWA's External Sharia Advisor, Professor Dr. Akram of Isra, Malaysia. He completed his pre-university studies in Madrasah Al-Junaid Al-Islamiyah before pursuing his studies in International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM, obtaining bachelor's degree in comparative religion studies and Usuluddin. He had completed a certificate in Fundamentals of Financial Services from Chartered Institute for Securities and Investments, CISI. He's presently also a lecturer for the International Islamic College and University College of Islam Malacca, for diploma courses like Principles and Practices of Islamic Banking and Finance and Islamic Law of Transaction. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Ustaz. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Alhamdulillah, it's good. Hopefully we have a fruitful tonight with our audience on this subject matter, inshallah.
Inshallah, Ustaz. All right, so let's dive into the first question, Ustaz, about insurance. All right, so the first question is, insurance is meant as a risk management tool against unforeseen and unintended circumstances, for example, damage caused by fire, vehicles accident, and so on. But is there such a thing as risk managing, or risk management, Ustaz, in Islamic using insurance? Ustaz, please.
Thank you so much, Iman. So for risk management, this is something to do with our day-to-day activities. For the longest time in human history, we have been able to manage our risk. Yeah. So from day one, since the birth of Islam, we have seen that Prophet ﷺ, his companion, and also all the tabi'ins that follows after that have managed their risk from day-to-day life. So these risks are called vulnerabilities of life. So these vulnerabilities of life is something that we are aware of it. And from the very beginning, Prophet ﷺ mentioned that, you need to put a trust in Allah, but at the same time also, please do plan ahead. Do make sure that you yourself cooperate between each other. Make sure that your society is stabilized, in a short term and also in a long term. So in Islam, from day one, we have been looking into this aspect. And at the same time also, is encouraged throughout Al-Quran and the prophetic traditions,
Right, thank you so much, Ustaz. So the trust in Allah, we need to have this tawakkul, but at the same time, we need to make sure we take care of each other, And hence, Ustaz has said just now that risk management has been here with us since the dawn of Islam. So thank you, Ustaz. So the next question is, insurance in itself is beneficial, when it comes to mitigating the loss one faces in the event of the insured event. But it's also contained the three elements, that is namely interest, which is riba, uncertainty, gharar, and zero-sum game, or somewhat people could understand it as gambling, in a form of gambling. So these things are impermissible, Ustaz. So how, Could you share with us, Ustaz, how these elements are present today in our insurance product, or they are not in our insurance product, or how is it, Ustaz?
Right. So after we understand that the Islam doesn't forbid the concept of insurance, is there. Even during our prophet time also, prophet says that, yeah, you need to take care of yourself, make sure that you can take care of your the welfare of your next kin, your family members and all. So the concept is not against Islam, all right, but the product itself. All right. So insurance is considered a modern contract, a modern day invention. Yeah. And then it was presented to a jurist, scholars of Islam. So when it was presented to Muslim scholars and jurists, they will actually check based on the context and also the understanding of the usage of insurance. And they found out that when it comes to insurance, it's not the one that we have been understood 1,400 years ago, where it is a mutual concept, where it's a mutual cooperation between society, between members to cover for each other, to help each other. So it's not a mutual assistance as what we understood in the past, but it's something to do with commercial terms, meaning that when you pay premium, the insurers actually will sell you a risk coverage. All right. So it's a legally binding promise from the insurers to cover you. But what you do is you exchange. It's like a buy and sell terms. So when it comes to buy and sell terms, according to Sharia principle, it has to go through a higher level of scrutiny. Whether we have riba, whether we have gharar, which is an excessive uncertainty, and whether, like you mentioned, a zero-sum game or gambling in that contract. And true enough, from this presentation to the juries, a vast majority of Muslim scholars, says that we found out that the commercial insurance contract have all these prohibited elements, and therefore it will be prohibited from that aspect. Yeah. So again, let me just reiterate again: Islam never forbid, never disallow the concept of insurance, but what they want to ensure people or the society is that the product must be in compliance to the established Sharia principles.
All right, Ustaz. So the question is, Ustaz, okay, we know that in Islamic version, okay, of insurance, it's called takaful.
Yeah.
Right. So using a sort of cooperative insurance, as mentioned just now, Ustaz, like mutual, contract, cooperative, helping each other, the society. But could you share with us how Muslim scholars were able to structure a Sharia-compliant insurance product which has none of the three impermissible elements? Because we believe that, like Ustaz said, Islam never forbid insurance. Okay, and then insurance in its nature, it has these three things. So how do we derive to takaful, Ustaz?
Right. So, like we begin from the very beginning, Islam and the modern scholars or even classical scholars of fiqh, like Imam Shafi'i, Imam Hanafi, they all accepted mutually cooperative insurance. All right. So that's the objective, is to cover each other, to make sure that if you've been robbed, for example, or calamities befall on you, you have someone within the society who will actually take care of you, right? So this concept is already there. And this concept is about you trying to cover each other. So it becomes like a contribution, a donation from a members of society to cover for each other. But this concept has been changed for commercial insurance. So instead of you putting your money into a pool of fund to cover each other as a donation, now you have changed that contract to be a buy and sell. Ask any insurer companies, ask any agent, advisors nowadays, they will say that, the insurance companies is selling you a coverage and you are buying a coverage. So that element has to be fully removed from the contract. So instead of a contract of compensatory or a contract of buy and sell, you move into a contract of non-compensatory or the contract of donation.
So it's a voluntary.
Voluntary. So from the very beginning, we want to cover for each other. We are very vulnerable. and the poor and the needy needs more of the society to cover for them. Yeah. So if from the very beginning, our intention when we enter into the contract, we say that, okay, a part of this money will actually go into a donation fund, a pool of fund. And it's something, I mean, the moment you have this in mind from the very beginning, you lower down your defense mechanism, you lower down your expectation to make profit. What you want to do, okay, in the event that someone in that member of society falls sick, I don't mind. You can take from that donation fund every year and I will help them. And in one fine day, if I myself also fall sick or I met with accident, I also can utilize that pool of fund. So it becomes very clear from the very beginning, it has to be donation, it has to be hiba. All right. The moment you change the contract from buy and sell to commercial to hiba to contribution, that's where the first element of riba is removed. All right. The moment you have buy and sell, scholars, jurists will start to ask you, okay, when you have this, whether there is an element of inequalities in terms of exchanging of money. When there's an inequality in terms of exchanging of money or delaying in exchanging of money, therefore there will be a hidden riba. Okay, this is what some scholars say, a hidden riba. You can't really see the riba unless you scrutinize the contract. All right. And then at the same time, if you look at the life insurance, they have another aspect of it where they will invest your money. That investment also, they will invest. Ask any of the insurers, they will say that, yeah, because we need to make sure that at the end of 20 years, the money is there, we need to invest in what we call a low risk investment called bond. Okay, conventional bond. And conventional bonds is in simple term is IOU instrument where you lend people money and then you charge an interest. And from that interest, we have a coupon, and that coupon will be the one who generate the returns for you over how many years. So that coupon in bond structure is a riba, is a blatant riba, or what we call it a very, very clear riba. Yeah. So we have that element. So if you have donation from the very beginning, then you remove the riba element. All right. So you want me to continue with gharar and also
yes, Ustaz. Yes, sure,
gambling?
Ustaz. Yes, yes, Ustaz.
Okay,
So that
yeah,
one was the first one that you explained is the contract itself. It's instead of buy and sell, it's actually a hiba. It's a form of voluntarily, right?
Exactly. So the moment you have voluntarily depart the money in terms of donation, so now it falls into a company called takaful. Okay, this money, unlike the conventional insurance, they now own the money. For takaful, the takaful companies doesn't own the premium that you pay. The takaful company is just managing your money in terms of the pool of fund. So they are not the owner, they are the operator of the fund. All right. So assuming that today, okay, for good example, we have 100 people audience in this session. All right. And then each of every one of us contribute or donate $1,000.
Okay.
So if we have $1,000 times by 100 people, we have $100,000. Right. So we give to takaful companies. Takaful companies, or we call it takaful operators, will manage this 100,000. If there is accident, if there is payout, if there is any illnesses or death, say for example, 50,000 is paid up to the members of the society. Another 50,000 is surplus. So that is where we manage of all this. So when it comes to the certainty or uncertainty of the contract, it's not there at all. Because from the very beginning, you put this thing as a donation and someone actually manage it for you. And when it comes to, you say that, Ustaz, there will be a certain uncertainty when it comes to payout. But from the very beginning, you say that I just want to...
Oh, it's a hiba.
It's a hiba.
Yeah.
So when it's a hiba, there is no high level of scrutiny from Sharia perspective to say that whether this is halal or not, whether it's not. Because it's like something that you give from the very beginning, right? Yeah. So that is why contract is very important. The nature of contract is important. And because of this nature of contract is not commercial, it is something social, something mutual, there is no element of gambling inside. Okay? If you have conventional insurance, what you do is that with your $1,000 that we just discussed just now, you have this in mind. Every year, who will benefit from this $1,000? Is it myself or is it an insurance company? Like it or not, because you have depart this and you have paid this $1,000. So it becomes like a wager where you pay to a company and then you say that it depends. Maybe next year I need to claim, maybe I don't claim, maybe 10 years later then I claim this money. So every year, insurance companies make money until the 10th year, then you start to make money. So it becomes like a game of chance. Okay? It's a zero-sum game. It's either you win or company wins. But in takaful, there is no such thing as this kind of game of chance. Because it's very clear. 100,000 that is in the pool of fund, 50,000, okay, if for any members of society who have issues or accident or whatsoever, they will actually pay. Another 50,000 is surplus. What you want to do with this 50,000? Let's invest. Then they will invest in Sharia compliant investment. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ustaz. I would just like to add on, Ustaz. Does this framework that you explained, right, does it apply to all types of insurance? Like be it life insurance or there's a few types of insurance, right, Ustaz? So it's for everything, for all the types of insurance, right, Ustaz?
That's right. That's right. For all types of insurance, these elements are there. It's just that some minorities views in Muslim scholars, they say that the type like accident plan, fire insurance, health insurance has no elements of this. Yeah, but majority of scholars says that the elements are still there. Yeah, the elements cannot be run away until you change the contract. So that is why we say that no, it's not that Muslim or Muslim scholars try to be difficult or try to say that insurance is not good or it's not according to Islam. We say that it's actually in line with Islam. It's just that what you need to do is to make sure that the contract is clear so that you don't maximize your profit for at the expense of the vulnerabilities of the people.
All right. Thank you, Ustaz, for the detailed explanation. Okay, so now let's focus on Singapore specifically, Ustaz, where there is no takaful product. Okay, so now some people say insurance products are impermissible, while others say it is permissible based on the darurah. Is there a process for us to determine this necessity principle, Ustaz?
That's right. So when the vast majority of scholars around the world, be in UK, in Jordan, in Syria, Malaysia, Southeast Asia, all these are the vast majority, yeah, who says that commercial insurance is haram. All right. But we all know from the very beginning, from day one, Islam wants you to take care of the risk. Take care of something that you might befall on. Prepare yourself from the very beginning. So if there is no Islamic solutions, especially in Singapore context, so Islam, based on the Sharia principle, mentioned that any unlawful matters can become lawful if it falls under the necessity principle, okay, or darurah. Okay, so because of that, then we can say that based on this principle of darurah, Muslims in Singapore can purchase conventional insurance. So it's not like doom and gloom story where you cannot purchase and then if anything happened to you, then you just put your hand on. No, it's not like that. All right. Yeah, so our religion is very encompassing and very holistic in the sense that we cover every single thing. So in that sense, then we now move into the principle of darurah. Yes, good news now, Muslim in Singapore can buy conventional insurance in the absence of Islamic insurance. But this principle must be taken care with a very, very a good constraint. Yeah. So what's the first constraint? The first constraint is that you need to make sure that when you purchase an insurance, it's within your necessity. Okay, and you need to be honest with your necessity and your situation. Okay, we are aware, scholars are aware that different people has different necessity.
Yeah.
Okay? Some people can tolerate more pain. Some people can tolerate less pain. Some people can actually, with whatever that they have, they can survive. Some people cannot survive if they don't have a very comfort decision. So
Yes.
that's where we cannot decide for them. Neither advisor, agent should decide for them. We should work together with the customer, with clients, and then we assess their situation. Okay, every month, how much do you provide for your family members? Assuming 2,000 or even 3,000 every month. So that 3,000, then you times by 12 months. Okay, it becomes what? 3,000 times by 12 months is 36,000. And then you times by how many years before your family is independent from you, from your support. Okay, say assuming another 20 years. Then you just times 36,000 times by 20 years.
20 years.
That will be your level of darurah. Okay, or necessity level. So this is one of the method we call income replacement method. It's a very, very well-known method in conventional world, financial planning. And it's something, Islamic is something that you prepare from the very beginning. And if you are removed from the picture, this is something that you can justify that this is my necessity and this is something that I can consume and so on.
What about Ustaz? What about someone that doesn't have that commitment? They don't have the commitment to the family and etc. They are maybe traveling, health, that type of thing. How darura is it, Ustaz?
Right. So when it comes to people, so the one that we discussed just now was like something maybe sole breadwinner. Those who be family or dependent. If in the event that you have no dependent, even your family members are well-to-do, they can take care of themselves, and they themselves also have their own savings and so on. Then you need to reflect inwards. You need to reflect yourself. In the event that you fall sick, in the event that you fall under the category of permanent disability, then your family have to take care of you, right?
Yes.
Right? So that is where you also need to say to yourself, how much do I spend for myself? For my transportation, for my food, for my health, and so on. And then you can calculate based on that. And that also is considered a darura or a necessity principle for you. So first category, if you think that you have dependent, you can base on that dependent. If you think that you don't have dependents now, maybe you're single or maybe your family is well-to-do and so on, then you just base on in the event that you fall sick or in the event that you cannot work anymore. So that one also can be a calculation for your necessity.
All right. Thank you so much, Ustaz. Okay, so after understanding the two ways of weighing our necessity, the darura, okay, before involving ourselves with insurance, with the conventional insurance Ustaz mentioned, all right, so the next one, so to our knowledge, Ustaz, FAiWA is the only independent financial advisor, okay, to have two unique factors. Firstly, an internal Sharia advisor such as yourself, Ustaz, okay, as well as an external Sharia advisor, okay, Professor Dr. Akram Laluddin. Okay, secondly, FAiWA also, so that's the first one. So second one is that FAiWA also has a fatwa on insurance, okay, when the local religious authority has left it to the individual. Could you share why FAiWA took the step to engage a scholar to produce a fatwa and share a bit on the fatwa, if you could?
Thank you so much for that. So you are right. We have issued a fatwa. Okay. So this fatwa is coming from our Sharia advisor, Professor Dr. Akram Laluddin. Professor Dr. Akram Laluddin is a CEO for ISRA, okay, which is an international research academy for Sharia as well. So based on his expertise, based on his involvement in many council, Muslim Jurist Council and so on. So we seek his advice, but his knowledge is international, global. I myself, and together with my head and so on, we actually give him the local context. This is very important.
Yes.
Yeah? We need people from the ground to reflect the real situation that the Muslim in Singapore is facing.
Yes.
Because of that, we told him very clearly there is no family takaful product, there is no medical takaful product in Singapore. how do we actually embark from this? So he said that first you need to look into what Muiz has mentioned. So we look into all the fatwa. There is fatwa from Muiz committee way back from 1988. Okay, so that was like the first fatwa on group insurance and so on. Yeah, so over the years the fatwa has evolved and so on. But again, Muiz fatwa also mentioned clearly that there is two views on this. Okay, there are scholars' views who says that the vast majority of scholars says that commercial insurance is non-permissible. All right, but there are minority views within Sharia scholars who says that you can take insurance, but a different type of insurance like accident insurance or health insurance. Yeah,
it's exceptional to certain now, Ustaz.
Certain insurance that these are minority scholars, right, based on their ijtihad. So when you have an ijtihad with all your qiyas, your ta'lili concept, your istishabi concept, all these, these are the juristic opinions. When you have all these tools, you will arrive to some rulings based on the understanding of the context and so on. So based on some of their understanding, they say that the minority views think that there are certain type of insurance can actually buy, but majority says no. But when they say no, they also say that in the event that there is no Islamic solutions, you can buy based on darurah. So based on that, FAiWA, together myself and Professor Dr. Akram Laldin, we issue a fatwa. We say that for Muslim context in Singapore, the first thing that you need to be aware of is that try to buy what we call a term plan or term insurance. All right. Why we say term insurance is the first choice for Muslim in Singapore, because term plan with the objective is to protect you over a certain period of time. All right. So it's the most affordable premium. And if you ask me personally also, okay, not from the Sharia perspective, personally also, when I scrutinize all the products, term plan is something good for us because of the protection level that it gives you, and at the same time also it gives you an affordable premium. Right? So that frees you up for you to do Sharia compliant investment, Sharia compliant businesses. Yeah, because Muslim needs to grow their money and so on. So because you have paid a very affordable premium, therefore you are left with a bulk of money for you to invest. So that's why we say the first one in our fatwa, we encourage Muslim, if they can, choose term plan. Because with term plan, you don't have the interest element like whole life. Right? Because whole life, like we mentioned just now, they invested in bonds and equities. And currently, almost 70 to 80% of the money that you put in whole life plan or endowment plan is under this, what we call bond structure. And bond structure is already conventional and it pays coupon, and that coupon is deemed as interest or riba. Okay? So because of that, try to go term. The second option is to go ILP with Sharia funds, right? So if you cannot take term, term that you need some, what we call it, a discipline mindset. Because with term, if you miss premium in terms of paying the term plan, then we lapse. And in the time when you are most vulnerable, for example, that's where you lapse your policy and that's where you don't have any coverage. Okay, so first term plus ILP with Sharia funds. And then if let's say all these two cannot be done, then that's only you start to look into whole life or even endowment. Only and only if you cannot purchase term for whatever reason, and you cannot purchase ILP with Sharia funds.
All right, thank you so much, Ustaz. May Allah bless our scholars and all the teams from FAiWA for taking this step to actually clarify to the Muslim society in Singapore what we should do when at the time where we do not have takaful in our country, Ustaz. All right, next. Some Muslims have taken up investment-linked policies, ILP, right, that use non-Sharia compliant funds as the underlying funds. Okay, so as mentioned just now, Ustaz, okay, we are aware that the fatwa, okay, by Professor Dr. Akram himself mentions only Sharia compliant funds. And as you mentioned just now also, Ustaz. So what is their recourse when such ILPs have lengthy lock-in periods that compensate nothing to the policyholders when cancelled?
Right. So when we purchase ILP, you need to be aware that there are a hybrid plan between investment and protection. Okay. So there is an element of protection where we call it a term plan, and there is an element of investment. Okay.
Yes.
And these two is variable over time. So when you purchase at the age of 20, the protection cost is very low. But as you grow older, and if you are not aware with all these terms and conditions in investment-linked policy, you might realize that at the age of 50, for example, how come my investment become lesser, but my insurance cost is higher, and therefore it's actually eaten up the investment element of it. All right. So because of that, you need to be aware that ILP, you need to be very sure that you understand what is ILP. All right. And if you have understood the ILP from your advisors, from your agent, now you need to know that in Singapore, we have Sharia funds. We have companies who have access to Sharia funds. And myself and Dr. Akram, when we discuss about this, we give an analogy why we say that ILP with Sharia funds is the best solution for Muslims. Because you just imagine that if you have like a bank, like Maybank, like CIMB, they have conventional bank,
yes,
but they also have windows, which is the Islamic windows. So when you go to Maybank, even though the building or the logo is conventional, but they also sell Islamic windows product, Islamic fixed deposit based on commodity murabah and so on. So you just purchase based on the Islamic product or Islamic
Windows side,
the Windows side. So similarly, when you purchase ILP, even though the structure is conventional, it still have Sharia issues, but we have the access to Sharia funds. So it's as good as you buy also the Islamic windows of it. And if let's say you don't look into this, I'm not sure how you're going to justify, because this is something darurah. Based on darurah, you need to make sure that if there is an Islamic alternative, Islamic solutions, you need to grab it. You need to make sure that you have invested in Sharia funds rather than conventional funds. Yeah. So that's my analogy on ILP.
Okay, thank you, Ustaz. But Ustaz, the question is maybe people do not prefer taking ILPs Sharia because of due to there's what we call like the bad side of ILP, okay, which like consumer, because it mixes insurance and investment. Thus, your coverage, okay, even if there is a guaranteed element, it merged compared to the term policies, which provide higher protection amount, okay, for less protection being paid to the performance of the fund. So, was ILPS with Sharia compliant funds made to be the final resort for the fatwa to be formulated, sir?
Yeah, so that's why we say that from the very beginning, the first choice for Muslim has to be term protection. Right? Because term doesn't have any kind of interest element, the blatant one, not the hidden one. The hidden one is something that we can discuss. The blatant one is the bond income that you generated over the years, over 20 years and so on. So that one is removed. So that's why we say term first. That's the first choice. And then you invest the rest into Sharia compliant funds. If you can't, for whatever reason, then you go to the second choice, which is ILP. With ILP, like you mentioned, you need to be aware that there are hefty charges on the ILP. All right. So usually maybe the first 3 to 5 years, they need to cover their costs. Insurance company have their cost, a fixed cost. They have to pay people on the upper side, on the side, on the lower side, and so on, admin costs and so on. So that takes time. All right. So some people will start to realize that, yeah, there are investment that you start from 100% of your capital, and some after a few years, then you start to see 100% of your capital being invested. All right. So I'm not 100% saying that you don't have to go ILP. But when you want to go ILP, you need to be very sure what you need to understand the ILP structure first. And at the same time, also make sure that your advisor is still there. Right? If your advisor is no longer there, you need to make sure that you understand the next one who take over the policies understand that you are investing this and you have a certain objective. And they have to tell you that there are charges, ongoing charges. And if you're not aware of the charges, after sometimes that ILP can actually take the investment or the savings element in that policies.
Okay, Ustaz. So how about if you know that in ILP there is guaranteed element, right, Ustaz? So doesn't that produce a riba element? So now we come back to the question that, okay, Muslims do not have takaful. Hence, we go to these three things that is mentioned by Ustaz. And then specifically when we talk about ILP, right, there is an element of riba. So if I could make an example here, Ustaz, like if someone insert by 10,000, okay, but should the event happen, okay, to that person, okay, and then he get guaranteed amount of 100,000 or 105% of the net asset value, how are we going to deal with that, Ustaz? So now we already understand that we Muslim, we can use conventional, and as Ustaz says, the first step, the term plan, and then the ILP, and then we go to the whole life. But now the ILP part, so is it we need to remove the riba or we need to do some calculation, Ustaz? So what's your advice, Ustaz?
Yeah, that's a very good question and very relevant one. So we have now understood that when we talk about ILP, there is two elements because of the hybrid nature of that contract.
Yes.
We have an element of protection and an element of investment.
Yep.
Okay. So when death happens, for example, for the policy holders, there is a guaranteed element or a coverage that pays to the family members. That 100,000 or 105,000 that you mentioned just now, that comes from the protection side, which is called term plan.
Okay.
Because of that two hybrid, right? Protection, investment. In the event of death, the protection side is activated. When it comes to protection side is activated and the family members receive it, they need to now be aware that this is a term proceed. And if they have calculated correctly their level of necessity when they purchase this contract, then whatever amount that they receive is for them to utilize, right? So that one have no issues because it comes from the protection. Right?
Protection, and also as a term plan where there is no other investment that is inside any riba. Okay, all right.
Correct. So the other element is when you survive, when maybe during your retirement, you want to surrender this policy and take the investment element. So that's the part where we say that if from the very beginning you follow this fatwa, where you invested in Sharia compliant funds, you don't have to purify anymore because it's already compliant from the very beginning. Maybe what you need to be aware is just to pay zakat on it and so on. And then you can consume it, based on the market price of that time. But if you invested in non-compliant funds, that's where you need to be aware that whether can you calculate how much to purify, how much is non-halal income and how much is halal income. Based on our experience, it's very difficult to determine for any conventional funds, in ILP, to determine what is halal income and what is non-halal income. So based on that, then you need to assess that situation, right? I hope I answered that, the intricacies of ILPs.
Yes, that is so much clearer right now. Okay, and with that said, also on the part for the retirement, right? So with that said, I guess we are advised and greatly advised to actually, if we are interested with ILP, to invest in the Sharia compliant, okay, to avoid all the unnecessary, like how to manage which is the halal income and what is the haram income. All right, so before we proceed to the next question, okay, for those that has just joined us, welcome. And with us tonight is Ustaz Haron with the topic today about insurance, the Singaporean Muslim dilemma. All right, so Ustaz, the next question, how then is the sequence when it comes to insurance based on fatwa? So can I, like for example, in terms of insurance, critical illnesses and LPs, can someone just Ustaz.
That's a very good question. So you mentioned about critical illness policies and so on. So just to let you know that critical illness policy also falls under term categories. Term plan categories, because there is no element of investment inside that critical illness policy. So it falls under the same category of term plan. So in the event that you want to follow our fatwa, okay, and our fatwa mentioned that as much as possible, try to buy term based on your necessity level. That also includes your critical illness plan. All right. So you can buy term, buy also critical illness, because that's still the first layer of the fatwa that we suggested to the Muslim community. All right. After that, then whatever money left, then you can start to do investment. Whatever you like. If you like project like maybe Islamic crowdfunding, then you can go Islamic crowdfunding. If you like Sharia compliant REITs, then you can go to Sharia compliant REITs. If you like ETF, then you can go with Sharia ETF and so on. And if you like a very, very real business, then start to invest with partnership in business, in startup and so on, as long as it's deemed as Sharia compliant.
So for that, it's not like the ILP, because ILP is together. So this one is something else. You can choose your investment out of the insurance that you took, right?
That's right. And you also free yourself from hefty charges. Yeah, when you do a DIY or when you do something outside of the structure itself. But again, let me just reiterate to you that ILP has its own merits. Okay, ILP, when someone is not disciplined enough, ILP can be their lifesaver when it comes to maybe they miss their premium, for example. Okay, maybe they have their down moment, for example, or maybe they just have like maybe they get retrenched, for example, right? Maybe there will be a 6 months gap that they cannot pay the premium. After that, they get a new job. So because of the investment element inside ILP, that investment element can kick in and save the coverage for them. Okay. The last thing that we want is that they are retrenched from their work, and then they fall sick. And if let's say, you are removed from the picture, premature death happens, and everything is not covered. That's the last thing that we want. So that is why advisor should be able to tell, okay, if you think that you are not disciplined enough, maybe you want to consider ILP with Sharia funds, but make sure that you understand that ILP, to what age you need to reduce the coverage, because ILP is very flexible. It's not like whole life plan where it's very fixed and it's not very easy to adjust and move from one coverage to another coverage.
Okay, thank you so much, Ustaz. Okay, next, how about Muslim consultants, okay, who have already heard and know about the fatwa, okay, but they are not part of FAiWA. Okay, so can they adapt or adopt with what you have explained just now for their financial consultant services, or is there more to just than this fatwa?
I think when we talk about advisor itself, right, when they have now know about this fatwa and also the vast majority scholars' point of view in terms of commercial insurance, Singapore, for Singapore financial advisory landscape, we are moving towards what we call a financial advisory industry. Okay. So they can actually slowly start to realize that within their insurer companies, they have a finance FA side. Okay, this FA side is more flexible. This FA side will have all the Sharia funds access as well. Okay, if the company doesn't have the Sharia access fund, then maybe you need to realize that, is this something that you want to do in the long term? Yeah. Maybe it's something that you need to ponder. If you have all the liabilities, all the bills that you need to pay, maybe you need to plan your way to make sure that you at least can provide a Sharia solutions. Yeah, and so on. That's my message to them.
All right, thank you so much, Ustaz. Okay, now let us think about what do we need to do with the haram policies, Ustaz. So example, right, another follow-up question to the question that was mentioned to you just now. Say that I have a whole life plan, Ustaz, okay, which I have owned for more than 20 years, and I'm nearing reaching the age of cashing the policies out. I wasn't aware that there is a Sharia compliance when I first took it. What should I do?
Right. So when it comes to that age or that time, so this advice is only when you have arrived to
current situation,
that situation, right? It doesn't apply for those who just want to purchase and so on.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, but one day you will arrive to this stage also, right? because you are purchasing conventional insurance. There is no takaful in Singapore. So maybe for the one that you asked, it is relevant for them. For those who going to purchase, this is something relevant for you in future. Yeah. So it's like this. When it comes to non-permissible conventional insurance policies, the moment you receive either a surrender value, okay, or a death value, meaning that the coverage value of it, what you need to realize that in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah mentioned that if you repent from the illegal activities, the haram money, you are entitled to get back your capital, okay, the initial amount that you put in. So in your example, Iman, say for example, over 20 years, I have paid 20,000. Right, but because of this, ILP is very good. I have worked with my advisors correctly. He helped me and so on. So that money grows to 40,000. Right. So based on this treatment, based on conventional policies treatment, the first 20,000 is your money, is your initial capital. That's halal for you. That's your entitlement. All right. So now the next 20,000 is above your capital. So Allah says, whatever above your capital is something that you need to purify it. You need to donate it away. Right? So if you have 40,000, the first 20,000 is for you halal. You don't have to think, you have to second guess about it. The another 20,000, this is where you need to now be aware in the event, because that time you might be out of work. Okay, that time may be the time when you retire. Okay, you may not have source of income. Okay, so at that particular time, you need to be aware that if you need the extra money, that another 20,000, so that is where you will now assess yourself. Am I in need of this extra 20,000? Yeah, I need, because I don't have any source of income, and I need to pay my bills. And in Singapore, you know, it's a very, very expensive city and so on, right? So based on that, then you assess, do I need all the 20,000? If it falls under my needs and necessity, therefore you can consume all the 20,000. But for some people, they have planned well. They invested in Sharia funds, real estate, and so on. So they have money. Or maybe they have some pension scheme and so on. So they might not need all the 20,000. Maybe they say that maybe I need 10,000. Another 10,000, then they have to donate it away to the fakir, the miskin, what you call as cleansing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Ustaz. So the time is not on our side. So let me just go quickly to the studio question. I guess there's a lot of questions. But let me just collate a few questions that is talking about when do you think about the future of takaful, Ustaz? There's a lot of questions. Is there a need to have a startup? Okay, when do you think Singapore will have takaful? So when do you think, Ustaz, takaful product will arrive, okay, or be produced in Singapore?
Right. So for any products to be introduced in Singapore, they must have some business sense. Okay, it makes sense to actually introduce in Singapore, and at the same time also there must be a demand from the ground. At this moment, we have about maybe 12 to 13% of Muslim in Singapore. Not all of us embrace takaful products or takaful concept. Hopefully from this session, they now realize that how important of the contract in Islam, and to make sure that whatever that you receive is halal. So hopefully from there, they started to believe that we need takaful. But takaful or Islamic insurance doesn't stop at the Arabic word of takaful. Okay? As long as any provider in Singapore produce or provide a mutual cooperative insurance, which is in line with Sharia principle, we all can buy that. We all can embrace that. So I foresee that in the event that you want to ask about future takaful in Singapore, any companies can provide this, we should embrace, and all this mutual cooperative insurance, even the non-Muslim also can purchase it. And Islam is not only for Muslim, it's also meant for everyone, Muslim and non-Muslim. So until that day, you can start to see that we all can have the takaful, or at least if you don't want to use the word takaful, just use the word cooperative insurance. That's fine.
Alright. Thank you, Ustaz. Okay, next question. This is a very interesting question. Maybe a follow-up for the startup or the future of takaful in Singapore. What is your opinion, Ustaz, of purchasing takaful product in Malaysia or other countries instead?
Wow, that's a very good question. So when it comes to purchasing takaful products in other countries, right? All right, you need to realize that we are bound with laws. Okay, we are bound with some restriction in terms of to prove whatever claims that you make. Okay, so assuming that you are Singaporean, you purchase maybe in Brunei, in Malaysia, and so on, right? In Indonesia, when you want to make a claim, the takaful companies in Indonesia or Malaysia, they need to make sure that your claims is sustained. It's something not fraud. All right, so there are a lot of processes to make sure first that this is correct claim, this is sustained, and so on. So a lot of intricacies can happen along the way. All right, so if you are not careful about that, if you purchase takaful in Malaysia and other countries, you might realize that your family members might not be able to just receive the money straight away. It will take time, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, and so on. And the second potential thing that I can think of is the currency lah, right? So even if you purchase like 300,000 or even 1 million, but this is in RM or in other currencies, then you need to subject yourself to foreign exchange risk as well.
Okay, Ustaz. The next question. Isn't MediShield Life enough already?
Right, so that's a very good question. So in Singapore, we have many shields. All right, so we have MediShield, we have Elder Shield, and the latest one is what? Care Shield. All right, so those who turn 30 this year, they will be offered a Care Shield plans and so on. Okay, so let's start with MediShield. MediShield is a low catastrophe plan for hospital. Right, so in the event that you are hospitalized, everyone in Singapore, Singaporean and Singapore resident, they will be covered with the basic minimum coverage for hospital plan. But that's very basic. Okay, in the event that you want to go to specialists for whatever illness that you have, okay, you might need to fork out from your own savings plan. Okay, if this MediShield doesn't cover you, or even if you want to follow certain specialists, and that specialist doesn't only have in one government
under the
hospital.
MediShield, right?
Yes. Yeah, so that's where you need to do a top up. Okay, what we call a conventional integrated shield plan, right? So with that, at least you based on your necessity again, because these are all conventional plan. So based on necessity, based on my necessity, I think I can take a middle plan or a B1 ward plan, for example, or even A ward, A or private ward. If that is your necessity level, that is something that you can purchase. Yeah. Yeah, so MediShield alone may not be enough. It just covers the bare basic expenses of your hospital plan. But if you need something more to cover for yourself because it is your necessity, then you are allowed to purchase an integrated plan based on that.
Okay, so another question, sir. If I'm covered by a company or my company, okay, and I have no choice to choose but to follow the investment that is provided, how is that?
So if you're covered by your company, the next question.
What he means, like he has no choice to choose like the one that we mentioned. There's term plan, there is ILP, you know, so it's already covered. There's no choosing here. So how is it in that case?
Right. So again, the next question is, are you paying the premium or the company pay the premium? If it is a company who pay the premium, it falls under a MUIS fatwa in 1988, which mentions about group insurance, deemed halal for the family members, because the one who pay this premium is your company and it's not you. So it's not your personal choice, it's your company. And because you exchange your service your time to the company. That's halal. That's something that your labor and so on. And you are giving this entitlement. So in the event of payout, in the event of claims, your family members can actually consume this based on this fatwa. And I think I'm inclined towards that fatwa as well. Because to me that if you have no liberty to choose, and someone choose for you, and because you are there, because you are giving your service, you are exchanging your time for this company to pay you, and they give you this entitlement, is something halal and permissible for you to take it, inshallah.
Right. Thank you so much, Ustaz, for the enlightenment towards that Okay, and one more. Do big insurance companies set up Islamic structures like takaful in Muslim countries, or do they promote the same product as in non-Muslim countries?
So again, let's go with the majority jurists and Muslim scholars' view that as long as we can have a structure of mutual cooperative insurance that follow Sharia compliance, anyone can offer that. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we want to see the contract. It doesn't exploit the vulnerabilities of people when it comes to their needs and so on. As long as people follow or adhere to that principles, anyone can actually offer this Islamic insurance, be it non-Muslim insurers or Muslim insurers.
Okay, Ustaz, another question. For ILPs, how do we determine if the funds are Sharia compliant? So maybe this one is a bit curious. Maybe is it during the contract they will tell you which investment, or they give you? How is it, Ustaz?
So ILP as of now in Singapore, as far as we know, the structure, the contract, the terms and condition inside the contract is not Islamically sound. All right. There are some potential elements that we have discussed earlier. There's an element of gharar, element of gambling and riba and so on. But the fund side, you can actually now check whether it has been endorsed to be Sharia compliant or not. It's not that we are trying to be, difficult, only Sharia compliant funds, only with Sharia logo or endorsement, then we need to invest. It's not that. If you have the capacity to check, to sift through the investment, please go ahead. But based on our experience, any funds, they will need to do a diversification of their investment. So at least they invest in 40, 50 stocks, right? Do you have the time and the instrument to check all the 40 and 50 companies? If even myself over this period of time in this industry, we have difficulty to even check just one fund. Okay, so it's very, very difficult to deem that, and that is why we leverage on the Sharia committee of that funds to say, this is Sharia compliance, there are certain tainted income that you purify, and the Sharia committee has purified for you. So what's left for you is just to pay your zakat.
Okay, right. Ustaz, next. Guide us, Ustaz, please guide us on the unnecessary riders or policies to Singapore Muslim can avoid when buying insurance. Some unethical insurance agents only thinking about commissions. How I know I'm buying the right insurance?
Oh, okay. This is a very specific question to a specific needs of that particular questioner. So when it comes to rider, you need to do some shopping. You need to do some comparison and analysis. Yeah, some riders. Yeah.
I could just join in with another question, so it come together. Okay, Ustaz. So joining with that question, okay, how to approach insurance program in Singapore? So yeah, we merged that two questions. Ustaz.
Insurance program in Singapore. Okay.
Yeah. So first approach. Yeah.
So first thing is for you to discuss and sit down with your financial advisors and consultant that what are my financial objectives? To what end do I see myself in 10 years and 20 years? Okay, so based on that financial objective, they will do a needs analysis. How much is your income? What is your dependent? And whether you can take some investment risk and so on. So based on that, then they will start to provide you a solution. Okay, so rider has its own merits. We are not saying that all riders have no merits. Some riders have merits in the sense that they save you some a premium cost. Okay, instead of you buy a standalone independent policy, you buy rider. So based on this rider, then you can tell that, oh, okay, it can become cheaper in that sense. So I think it's a very difficult question for me to tell this rider is good, this rider is not good, until and unless I understand your financial objective and to what end that you want to plan for yourself and your family members. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So maybe adding to the question, how do I approach in Singapore, or where should I approach? Which is the one that I can have the trust, it's ethical, you know?
Right. So I think it's best that if you have one or two advisors, and these advisors are what we call not biased to one product or two products, that would be good. Yeah, because the moment they are biased to certain products, then they might have only that solutions to give you. But if they are not tied to one or two products, they have more interest towards you. Okay, and I believe that the majority of financial advisors in Singapore, okay, based on MES, they are also giving the best for you. It's just that sometimes you yourself also need to ask a right question. For example, why you offer me an ILP? Why you don't offer me term plan? So this kind of, right? The moment you ask this kind of question, then they need to explain to you. And
right question leads to right question needs clarifications. Yeah.
Correct. So then they start to, okay, based on your needs, I think ILP is good for you because of this and this and this. And then they have to document this in their recommendation. And this recommendation sometimes is being audited by their compliance unit and also by MAS. Right? So they have what we call a fiduciary duty to tell you what is best for you and match your needs. But you yourself also have to have at least a basic understanding what is term plan, what is ILP, what is whole life, and what is the good of ILP, what is the bad of the ILPs, and so on. Yeah, with that, I think it will help Muslim consumer in general, inshallah.
Yes, inshallah. Thank you so much, Ustaz. Okay, once again, indeed, it has been a fruitful session. Okay, we have learned a lot, mashallah. Thank you so much. And I believe there's a lot more that you would like to share with us, but time is not on our side. Do look out on IFSG Space for the next episode of More Than Just Money series, a series for anything that is Islamic finance related. So once again, thank you so much, Ustaz, and thank you so much to the participants, and see you again. Good night and stay safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.